All right, so I have a presentation here. And feel free to ask questions. It's totally informal. It's a small number of us. But I'm basically going to go over the whole financial aid process, starting from how we calculate your award all the way to actually you getting the money. The first thing to understand about how we calculate your financial aid is we look at what is your cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance, very big scale is basically, it includes all your tuition and fees, your room and board, your books, transportation, any kind of educational expense. No matter what school you go to, every school is going to have a different cost of attendance. So then from there, the other term that we use is your expected family contribution, or EFC. So the EFC basically is a measurement of how much money the federal government believes that you and your family is able to contribute to your education. So that includes both the student contribution as well as the parent contribution, if you're a dependent student. And we'll go into dependency status in a bit. So then we look at the cost of attendance, we subtract your expected family contribution, and that's how we get your financial need. So in the financial aid office, we look to fill that financial need for you as much as we can. And we do that by these 4 different types of awards. So scholarships and grants are considered gift aid. So that is money that you do not have to pay back. Then we also have self-help aid. So that includes loans. So with loans, you do have to pay it back. So you want to be very careful about how much money you are taking out because you have to pay it back with interest. And then we also have work study. Work study is an opportunity that allows you to work on campus. The federal government pays for half your salary, and then the other half is the office that is employing you. So who is able to get federal student aid? Keep in mind I'm using the word federal here. So students that are eligible, you need to be a US citizen or a permanent resident. You need to be a high school graduate. You need to be enrolled in an eligible degree or certificate program. You do need to have a valid social. If you're a male between the ages of 18 and 25, you do need to be registered with a selective service. You also need to be maintaining satisfactory academic progress, or SAP. There's also some more criteria, but this is the first kind of big group. If you are a student that is not eligible for federal student aid because of your citizenship status, there is the California DREAM Act. So this allows you to be eligible for state and institution-based aid. You do need to fit one of the criteria in order to be eligible, but there is funds available for students in the state of California, which is really, really great. So one of the questions we get a lot in the office is students say, I'm not even going to bother filling out my FAFSA because I'm not going to get any money, or it's not even worth it. I heard you don't even get that much. So this is an example of the maximum awards for this school year. So keep in mind, these are maximums. So for the Pell Grant, for example, that's $63.45 for a school year. You can also get up to $400 for the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. And then we also have the Student Success Grant, we have Cal Grants, and then we have 2 fee waivers. So if you look at all of these different awards, it actually adds up to a lot. Students are able to get a good amount of free money. And so I always tell students, like, you never know until you try. So just submit your application and follow through with all of the tasks, because there's a lot of money out there available for students to take. So a big question we get a lot in the office is the 2 different promises. It makes it very confusing because they're both called promise. I don't know why they decided to name them both promise, but one of them is the California College Promise Grant, or the CCPG. That one used to be called the BOG fee waiver. So it basically covers your tuition costs, the $46 per unit. It is based off of your income information, and you do need to be a California resident. So that's the CCPG. The other program we have is the Cabrillo College Promise Program. So that one is only eligible for students for recent graduates from the local Cabrillo Service District. You do need to be enrolled in at least full-time for this program. There is a separate application you have to fill out as well. It's like a Google form. And this one allows you to have up to 2 years. Meanwhile, the CCPG, you can be enrolled in 1 unit and it will cover your fees for that 1 unit, or you can be in 15 units and it will cover the 15. So they're very different. When you fill out your FAFSA or your DREAM Act, we look to see if you qualify for the CCPG. If you qualify for the CCPG, we will give you that one. If you don't, and you are somebody that graduated from a local high school, then you have the ability to apply for the Cabrillo College Promise Program. You can only have one of them. So they're both fee waivers. They both cover the tuition costs. They just have different kind of requirements. And if you call us and you say, I have the Promise, it's fine. We'll figure out which one it is that you have, but keep in mind that there are 2 different programs.
Magdalena?
Yeah.
Esmeralda had a question
Oh,
in the chat box. Oh, no, it's okay. I was just thought maybe a good time. She asked, do you have to give back what you don't use?
no. No, so once you get that, the money is for you to spend. So we have some financial literacy workshops available throughout the school year that allow you to basically learn how to budget your money. So a lot of students will get their financial aid refund, and we get you that amount, and then you do with that money what you wish. We don't require you to give us receipts. We don't require any of that. So if you got, for example, $500 as a refund, and that's going to help cover your books and your rent and all of that, but you live with your parents and your parents don't require you to pay rent, and your books were only $100, then that extra $400 is for you, for your pocket. So you get to do what you wish with that money. Realistically, the federal government wants you to use it for educational related expenses. So that can include, money for rent, money for to pay the electricity bill so that the lights stay on when you're doing your homework. Right now that we're all doing virtual, having internet access, having good, reliable internet access, being able to pay for those bills, being able to pay for a backpack, for maybe you need a new computer that has all these capabilities since we're having to be online all the time. You need during the winter, it doesn't get too cold here, but if you need like a big winter jacket to stay warm so that you can actually focus and do well in your schoolwork, those are all things that are educational related expenses. Okay, is there another question? Or?
That was it.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you, Magdalena.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I didn't notice that little blinking light.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
One comment, and I think this is what you were going to get at right now. For the Promise grant, I think students forget that they still need to do the FAFSA.
Yep.
They think, oh, there's a Promise grant, so if I graduated high school, I get, free tuition. But you still need to do the FAFSA. You still need to do the application. It doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we get a lot of students that call us halfway through the semester and being like, why do I have all these fees? And then we look and we realize that they never submitted a FAFSA. They thought it would just be an automatic. They're like, I thought Cabrillo was free for 2 years. And, it is. If you fit that Cabrillo Promise program, that's what they're advertising for the free 2 years. But you still need to submit your FAFSA. You still need to submit the application, and you need to do all those requirements. So it's important that you're still, things don't just happen automatically. So in order for you to submit an application, there's 2 different ways. So one of them is the FAFSA, and that's going to FAFSA.gov. And the other one is the California Dream Act, which is through the dream.csac.ca.gov. So when you go to either one, they're basically asking you the same questions. They ask you for your information, financial information, your parents' information, and parents' financial information. They're just a little different, and it caters to different populations. So in order for you to fill out your FAFSA, you're going to need to create what's called an FSA ID. And I know most of you have already filled out a FAFSA, but just to recap, that FSA ID, you want to make sure that you're saving that somewhere safe. That login information you're going to use throughout your time, throughout your educational career. So I recommend saving it on your phone as like a contact, because regardless if you change phones, usually your contacts will transfer over. If you get locked out because you don't use it you use it once a year when you fill out your FAFSA, a lot of times people have a hard time getting back in there. Maybe their email's changed or anything like that. So just make sure you keep it somewhere safe. If you are a dependent student, one of your parents also has to fill out, have to create an FSA ID. So I know when I was in school, I basically had to keep my mom's login information because she always forgot it. And she was always calling me being like, how do you not know my information? I was like, I don't. So just keep those information somewhere safe. If you have a special place, if you have a folder, if you have something on your phone, wherever it is, keep it somewhere safe. An important note, if your parents do not have a valid social security number, they will not be able to create an FSA ID. Instead, they will have to, you'll have to print out the signature page, and your parent will have to physically sign it, and then you send it via the mail. And that's how you'll be able to fill out your FAFSA. That FSA ID is also the same login that you'll use to enter any of the studentaid.gov pages. So if you decide to take out loans or anything like that, that's the same login that you'll be using. We very often find students make some errors on their applications. Some errors are easier to fix than others. So we always just recommend students take your time, go slow, really make sure you're double checking everything. So some of the most difficult errors to fix are mismatch of social security numbers. Sometimes, you meant to put a 7, but you put an 8, it's just off by 1 digit. And that will make it so that we can't match your application to your student profile. So then we're not able to complete your file, and then you're just kind of sitting in this limbo world, and it's really confusing and complicated. But so we are able to fix it, but it just takes some time, and it puts a delay in your aid, and we really don't want that. We really do not want that. We want you to get the money as soon as possible, no delays. So just really take your time. Even if you're kind of looking at digit by digit, just make sure you're putting all that information exactly the way it's written on your identification cards, on your social security cards, the way the information is on the taxes. Make sure all those numbers and the spellings match.
Magdalena, I have a quick question. One student emailed me because they're filing as an independent and not as a dependent. And I think they were confused whether or not they needed to put their parents' income or information down. Can you explain whether or not that's necessary if you're filing as an independent?
Yeah, so that actually goes into this dependency status.
Thank you.
So according to the federal government, students under the age of 24 are considered dependent. That is regardless if your parents are contributing to your education or not. If there are some criteria that allow you to be considered independent if you are below 24. So those can be if you're married, if you have a dependent child, if you are a veteran, selective service, if you're a former foster youth, there's a couple of different ones. As long as you fit one of the criteria, you are considered independent. If you are considered independent, you do not have to put in parent information. The FAFSA is still going to ask you, do you want to include information on your parents? You don't have to. But if you say yes that you to one of those questions, and then later when we ask for proof and you're not able to provide that, then you will have to provide that parent information, because the system's going to be like, you couldn't provide proof, so your application is not complete. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So when you're filling out the FAFSA, you are using what we call prior year. So you're always using 2 years ago financial information. And when we're doing that, it can be a very real possibility that situations can change. There's loss of employment, people get divorced, people pass away. There can be some, really big medical expense that really put a dent in financial situations. I mean, right now, look at COVID. A lot of people are losing their jobs. So there are special circumstances where you are able to submit what's called an income change appeal, so that we can relook at your EFC and recalculate it based on the information that's going on right now versus what was happening 2 years ago. If this is something that applies to you, then what you should do is reach out to our office and say that you want to request an income change appeal. And then your advisor can kind of get that started for you, so that you can provide all of that information. We want to make sure that you're getting the most amount of aid that you're able to get. There's also dependency override appeals. So if you are a student that you are considered dependent, but maybe you had to leave home because of an abusive environment in your home, or your parents are incarcerated, or you just lost touch with your parents due to reasons, there is an appeal that we can do in order to make you independent. So if any of those criteria kind of apply to you, please connect with our office. The earlier you connect with our office, the faster we can get this aid to you. So after you submit your application, the application goes through the federal processor, and then they will send out your application information to whatever school that you submitted your application to. So for Cabrillo, once we receive it, you will get an email that says, hey, it's called an acknowledgement email. It lets you know that we received your application, and it lets you know if there's any next steps that you have to do in order for your file to be completed. Sometimes we hear from students saying, I submitted my application weeks ago and I haven't heard back. What the heck? What's going on? The 3 biggest reasons why you may not have heard back is maybe you didn't include Cabrillo's school code. So you want to log back into your application and make sure that that Cabrillo's listed. Maybe your contact information is not correct. Very often when students first register through WebAdvisor, they have an email address from high school, or maybe it's like an old email and you never updated it. So you want to make sure you log back into WebAdvisor and update that email, because that is the email that we send all of our communication to, as well as the phone number. So you want to make sure that the email and the phone number on there are the most up to date. Another reason why you may not have heard from us is maybe you submitted the wrong application for the wrong school year. So right now we only have the 2021 application open, but next week, starting October 1st, the 2021-2022 application is going to go live. So you want to make sure that you're submitting the application for the right school year. So for the 2021 application, that is for fall 2020 all the way to summer 21. And then the 2021-2022 application covers starting next fall all the way to summer 22. So you want to be mindful of which application you are applying for. Once you get that letter that says you may have tasks to complete, that is what we usually go off of. So there's a thing called verification and there's a thing called express. So 1 out of every 3 students that submits an application gets randomly selected for verification from the federal government. That basically just means that we need to confirm that what you put on your FAFSA is accurate and true. So we may ask you for your high school diploma. We may ask you for your taxes or your parents' taxes, or maybe your parents' marriage certificate or a divorce decree, or maybe we'll ask you for a W-2, any of that information. All of that information is submitted through MyVerify. So for the other students that are not considered express, when you log in, your screen will just say congratulations. There's nothing else that you have to do. So in case you haven't already, I recommend that you all log in to MyVerify. So you just go to cabrillo.verifymyfafsa.com. And when you log in there, if it's your first time logging in, it is going to ask you to register your account. You want to make sure that you're putting in your name exactly the way you spelt it on your FAFSA. So if on your FAFSA you put in, maybe you have a hyphenated last name, you want to make sure you put in your name exactly like that when you're registering your account. Otherwise, it's not going to match you to that file. And so MyVerify is super easy and convenient. It allows you to just take a picture of your documents and just upload it straight from your mobile device. So it's super easy. You just want to make sure that when you're taking the pictures, it's all about the angles, right? So you want to make sure that you're getting the whole document into the picture. You want to make sure it's not blurry, it's not cut off, but it's super easy. You just hit that upload button and it allows you to take a picture. Super, super easy. That way you don't have to physically come into the office. I mean, right now nobody's coming to the office, but in regular world, you don't have to bring all the papers to the office and carry them back and forth. You can just do it straight from home. So you will get, once you complete those verification tasks, then your financial aid file will be completed. Once your financial aid file is completed, you will get what's called an offer letter. So you can view this offer letter through WebAdvisor, and in there, it's going to tell you a couple things. It's going to show you your budget, which is also what we call that cost of attendance, your EFC, which was that expected family contribution, the need, and then it's going to tell you a breakdown of all the different awards that you're being packaged for. So it will show you for the school year and for each term. So this is I really recommend that in case you haven't looked at it, that you look at it so that you can see all the different awards that you're getting packaged for. That way it's going to help you start kind of planning for the future as far as your budget and all of that, to make sure, you know, do you have to take out a part-time job or not? And as your file gets completed, you may get awarded more awards later. But this is the one place where you can see them.
How do they get their award letter? Do they just have to go in and look for it, or do they get like an email saying here's your award letter?
So once your
offer
file
letter
is completed, it will say your award letter is ready to be reviewed, and then you have to go into WebAdvisor. I should put a little screenshot of it, but I didn't. You go into WebAdvisor, and then in there you can view, one of the options is view award letter by term or by year, and you'll be able to access it there. But you'll get an email once it's ready for you to look at. So when you get your award letter, you will see that the awards listed are the maximum amount. That's based if you are full-time. So some grants, how much money you get is dependent on your enrollment status. One of those that has a certain enrollment requirements is the Pell Grant. So depending on how many units you're enrolled in, it will say how much of the grant you're eligible to receive. So if you are considered full-time, that is 12 units or more, you will get 100% of that award. And then if you are enrolled in 9 units up to 11.99 units, you will get you're considered 3/4 time, so you get 75% of that award, and so forth and so forth. So this is very important. This is based on your enrollment status as of the census date. So that's why it's very, very important that you are enrolled and finalize your enrollments by that census date. That census date is usually 2 weeks into the semester. If you make any changes to your schedule after that, your enrollment, your aid won't get adjusted based on that. We need to have a freeze date, and that's the census date. Something else to keep in mind, fee waivers are not cash awards. So sometimes we get students call us and say, you know, on the award letter, I see $2,898 for the Promise Grant. Where's that money? I never got it. So that's a fee waiver. Fee waivers are not cash awards. They're posted straight to your student account, and they cover your tuition fees. The other grants, so like the Pell Grant, Cal Grant, Work Study, FSCOG, and any of those are cash awards, and you will get those awarded to you. So the Pell Grant, for example, is one that is split into 2 awards for the semester. The first disbursement is typically given out the Thursday before classes start, and then the second disbursement is given halfway through the term. Keep in mind that you're not able to get paid for a class until the class starts. So until you are in and attending the class. So sometimes students enroll in late starting classes. So then your financial aid award for until that kicks in isn't the full amount. So right now you're only considered in 9 units, so you're only in 3/4 time. But by the time that late starting class kicks in, then you'll get that extra financial aid boost to give you for that enrollment status. So that's one of the things that's really complicated, and I think it's really confusing when people are like, what do you mean I'm not getting all my award right now? Keep in mind that it's based off of your enrollment status at the time of census, and also your enrollment status for the classes that you are in and attending at that point. Questions on that?
For census, that's like the last day you can add a class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it already passed. It was, oh, I'm looking at the calendar. It's the wrong calendar. I don't remember the date now, but it did pass. So whatever you were enrolled in, I think the last day, my class is a short-term class. So I didn't memorize these dates. But when they're looking at full-time, part-time before census, it's including any late started classes.
Yes.
Late starting classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they're looking to send your payment or your grant disbursement, it's whatever units that you are enrolled in and actively attending at that point in time. So if let's say you're 12 units total, right? And right now, 9 units is what you're in right now. And your other class doesn't start till October. Let's say it's 3 units. So in September, August, whatever, you'll be getting 75% of that grant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to that second disbursement, halfway through the term, then you'll be full-time, and then you will get the amount at that time for that half, right?
Yeah.
So you'll get 100%. So
Yeah.
let's
So
say your grant was $100.
So as soon as the late starting class starts,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get that remaining
Right.
amount. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Some of you might not have late start classes, but I know that they're coming up. So any questions on this part? Because this part does get confusing.
Yeah, this is one of the most confusing parts. as well as when you received your aid already and you received, say you got your aid and you were enrolled full-time. But then later you go and you drop one of the classes, so then now you're 3/4 time. So you may also be in a situation where you may owe back some of the money because you received more money than you were entitled to. Or you may just get a reduced second disbursement to balance it out. And that's what the advisors are in the middle of doing right now, is they're in the middle of reviewing all the disbursements that went out and checking them with the census dates to make sure that the students got paid correctly. So that is one of the other confusing parts. So in order to disperse the funds to students, we use Bank Mobile. Students have the ability to, you can either set up an account with them, they are a banking institution, or you can set up a direct deposit if you already have a bank account. Once your file is completed and you have an disbursement pending, you'll get an email from them that tells you, hey, set up your account. And then you'll go through them and you'll be able to select whichever option works better for you. If for some reason you don't go in there and you don't set up a preference, they will send you a paper check, but that paper check doesn't come until like 3-4 weeks later. And very often those checks get returned because the mailing address that you have on WebAdvisor is not up to date. So you want to be really, really careful. And I just recommend that you just go in there and set up that refund preference right away so that your check doesn't get lost in the mail. I don't know about you, but making sure that you get that money is going to be super, super important. You want to make sure this is done right away so that there's no delays and you can get that money right away. Disbursements are usually released Thursdays. Today is Wednesday, so tomorrow would be the next wave of disbursements. So we finish up a file the week before, and then by the time the business office runs their process, it gets released the following Thursday. So for all the students that their files were completed last week, they'll get a disbursement this Thursday. Usually there's a little bit of a delay for students that have a direct deposit. Rather than getting it Thursday, you may get it Friday or maybe even Monday, depending on your banking institution. But that is kind of the schedule that the funds get dispersed.
Elena, that was a question about Bank Mobile. So there are some charges for some activity, I guess. And then is there a bank that you can get your ROR without being charged a fee? So if you have your own account, right? Like Bank Mobile is just like another bank, basically. Yeah. And that's the one that we have a contract with that students can access and, go to the link and we have the information so you can easily sign up. But if you have your own bank, like, I don't want to say any banks, but like if you have your own account and you don't want to use Bank Mobile, you have the choice. But how do you add your own account? I think I missed that. How do you say like, send my money to, XY bank and this is my account number? How do you do that?
So when you log into Bank Mobile, it's going to tell you have two options. One is set up an account with them. And again, they are a banking institution. So just like every other bank, they have fees. And the other option is a direct deposit. So if you want it to go to a direct deposit, then it's going to ask you for your routing number and your account number and all that information so that your funds can get directed to your bank account.
Okay, so it's still through Bank Mobile. You just tell them,
yeah,
I want to open an account with you.
yeah.
I have my own. Okay,
exactly.
Just follow the link and you're good. And I think Michelle also put a little note. She said the same thing. It looks like she's done this before, that allows you to put in your information.
Yeah, and FYI, if you end up having a job on campus, Your paychecks are also dispersed through Bank Mobile as well.
Okay. So basically anything that you're getting is going to go through Bank Mobile, and then whether it's your Bank Mobile bank account or your own personal
Yeah.
account with another banking institution.
Yeah.
Got it.
That is the disbursement banking institution that Cabrillo partnered with, so everything kind of goes through them. Yeah. So, does anybody have any questions? I put in the general financial aid email on there. You're always welcome to send an email there. My personal email is also on there as well. Feel free to reach out to me. We also have an Instagram that we're regularly posting deadlines and things like that. We also have a lot of workshops that we're doing. So, make sure you follow us so that you can kind of be the first to know all that information. But anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Sorry.
Go ahead.
You said if we wanted to appeal the income for this year due to COVID and everything, there's a paper we have to submit. Can we get that paper from the website?
Kind of cut out at the end, but I think I got what you were saying. So if you wanted to request an income change appeal, just send an email to financial.aid@cabrillo.edu and say what your name, your student ID number, and say that you want to request an income change appeal. And then the program specialist will forward your email to your advisor. And then they will be able to initiate it for you. So keep in mind that the income change appeal is located through MyVerify as well. So it will show up on your MyVerify when you log in. It will be an extra tab that says income change appeal. And then you'll just click there. And then again, all of the forms and documents, you'll just do it through your phone. You can just take pictures of everything.
Thank you.
There was another question. Some good questions, actually. Michelle asked, are summer semester unit requirements also 12 units for full-time?
So for summer, it's different. For summer, full-time is 9 units.
And then there was another question by Jermaine. How would you receive the funds for scholarships?
That is also going to be through Bank Mobile. And I know Holly is our scholarship coordinator. She went through and put in everybody's scholarships that received them for this year. There are some things that you have to do in order to receive those scholarship funds for some of them. Some of them do have an enrollment requirement. Some of them do require you to submit a thank you letter in order for the funds to be released. So make sure you look at the email that you received from Holly that explains what is the criteria that you need to do in order to receive those funds.
There was one question earlier that I forgot to ask about. Michelle had a question. Do applications cross-reference? So she filed as a parent and as a student. And would their applications be cross-referenced if they're both Cabrillo students? I'm assuming no, but I wanted you to let us confirm.
No, they're not cross-referenced. Basically, every student's financial aid is like completely separate.
Yeah, because you're using your same like FSA ID because that's your same FSA ID forever. I just use mine as a parent as well, which I used as a student. So yeah, it doesn't cross-reference though. I don't think Cabrillo goes in and checks, like double checks those things or anything like that. Or yeah, your eligibility could be totally different than your daughter's eligibility. Exactly. That's very possible because students have to report their income as well. So that you can't really compare the two really. They're your own individual applications.
Yeah, and it's also very interesting. Sometimes we get twins in the office and their financial aid packages look completely different. So And again, that's because it's very different by individual. You know, one twin worked while the other one didn't, so that made a big difference in their financial aid package. So it's very different.
Yeah. And Erica had a really good question. For how many years can you get financial aid?
Yeah, so the answer is it depends. So and that's kind of the main answer for everything financial. But it depends on the type of aid. So you can get fee waivers. So the CCPG you can keep getting as long as you're in school and you're maintaining that good academic progress. Pell Grant, for example, Pell Grant you're only eligible for 6 full-time semesters or 6 full-time years. So you want to be mindful of that. Cal Grant also has a limit on it. So sometimes students decide to tell us, you know what, can you put a hold on my Pell? I want to save it for when I transfer. So you're able to do that. You just have to send us an email and say, again, this is my name, my student ID number, and I want to not use my Pell Grant while I'm at Cabrillo. I don't want to use my Cal Grant when I'm at Cabrillo. I want to make sure I have enough for when I go. So it depends on what it is, but there is some type of aid.
When they decide not to use their Pell though, I mean, that's something you have to reapply for every year. So it's not like you're saving it for another time. You're kind of just not using it, you know, that year, but you still have to be eligible next time you apply for it. So that's another tricky part is that if you transfer and then all of a sudden you're not eligible for Pell Grant anymore, then, you know, that's not money that's waiting for you. You have to reapply for it every year.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just kind of putting it in a bank account somewhere.
Yeah,
You're
it'd be nice.
not using your Pell Grant, and you have to reapply every year and you have to be eligible again. So there's also that little caveat where like, yeah, you can do that, but you're not saving it. You're just not using your time, the time that you can get it. So, but you can get the fee waiver for a long time, and you can also get it at multiple schools. Like if you find a really cool class that, I don't know, some other, you know, community college offers that for some crazy reason we don't, you can actually get that at multiple schools, whereas all the other grants you cannot. You can only get it at one school. Yeah. And also, if you were disqualified or reached your maximum time frame, you can still, if you're in good standing with Cabrillo, you can still get the fee waiver or the CCPG grant. But you would be still disqualified for any other aid.
Exactly.
But that's why I tell students you have to do the FAFSA anyway, even if you're disqualified or even if you're not going to get anything else, because if at least you get the fee waiver, that's a big help.
Yeah. And for many scholarships, they actually require you to have a FAFSA on file. So it's just a good thing, a good habit to get into. The FAFSA has improved so much through the years. It used to be so much longer. It has skip logic enabled now. You can also use the IRS data retrieval tool, which makes it so much faster as well. So just submit the FAFSA every year. You never know. It's good to just have it on file. And if you are a student that is max time, know that you can submit an appeal so that you can try to get the financial aid back.
And Magdalena, I didn't know whether you wanted to mention anything about the COVID-19 grants, just as a resource, an extra resource of people that have applied, or maybe an incentive to apply to FAFSA because there's that extra resource available to students during this time.
Yeah, so if you go to basically any Cabrillo website, it has like the little yellow banner on the top. One of them is the COVID page on there. So in there's information on the CARES Act. There's money available to students. I believe money got dispersed for students in the spring. I believe that there was a first wave of funds that got dispersed for students enrolled for the fall as well. It's $500. for students that are enrolled. So definitely take advantage of it. It's for students that are enrolled full-time. Make sure you submit an application, apply in case you didn't get it. It's usually my director is the one that sends those out. So in case you didn't automatically receive one, you automatically receive one if you have a 0 EFC. So if you're somebody that didn't get one, maybe it was because you were not in good academic standing or your EFC is higher than 0, submit an application, and I can see that Lydia put in the application in the chat. So, just go in, you never know, just submit the application. There's so many funds available for students. Just put yourself out there and get that going. There's also tons of scholarships available on our website. I'm in the middle of migrating everything into our new website. So the scholarship page is gonna get a full rework as well. But please always look at the website. There's tons and tons of scholarships. There's so many scholarships that nobody even applies for. So the money just sits there. So please just submit an application. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a recent grad myself, and I applied to a lot of private scholarships. And, I fortunately was able to get a couple, and it really, really helps. It does take a little bit of more time, because you do have to write an essay depending on the application. But once you get in the habit, then you can recycle that essay for another application, and you kind of then are on the lookout for other ones. I'm going to actually just post a link to a scholarship I applied to and was awarded. It's called the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. For you guys to know, and if anybody has any questions about that one that I was awarded when I was at Cabrillo, you could reach out to me.
Thank you, Lydia. We're almost out of time, so if you have any questions or if you want to stick around afterwards, if you have something about your individual file, I think we have a few minutes left. I'm sorry, I had to step out for a minute. There was someone at the door. But are there any other final questions before we break off? Great. There was a lot of good questions. Thank you so much, Magdalena, for providing all this information for our students. I'm sure they appreciate it. Certainly I do. Yeah, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. If you have some specific questions that we might want to ask about your particular situation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Let me know if you have questions.
And Magdalena, actually, I have a quick question. If students were interested in maybe scheduling an appointment directly with you, specifically related to their application, can they do that through just emailing you?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to stop recording now.